Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing, Season 1, Episode 10, Sins of the Father, the season finale of Season 1. The episode's description reads as follows. Maggie returns to Boston prepared to face the consequences of her actions while Cal searches for closure of his own. The episode was directed by Terry Ciceretti, who I believe also directed the previous episode. The episode was written by Roma Roth, the W series creator. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a Sport for You podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please subscribe. You can also head over to my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to our channel. All right, shout-outs this week. One for Skylar Anderson. He said that although he is happy that we are going to continue to cover the show and that we're probably going to be watching it at the same time, it was sort of fun for him to listen to us speculate when he already knew the answers.
Right.
And I certainly feel that, Skylar.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it'll be fun to be on the same page.
Yeah, and then we could all speculate together.
Exactly. And Ashley Wright said that the whole crew of people that we saw in Search and Rescue before they went to take a call, that could have been everybody, all ships. They were in some kind of training exercise, and all the ships were there. So that's not all the people that are working at any given time.
Yeah, well, they need more people working at any given time is the point.
Yes, I
when they literally
agree.
tell people, we can't get to your emergency for an hour because our one ambulance is already on a call. Sorry.
Have a heart attack? Grab a Snickers bar. All right. Wow, my voice went there for a second there. All right. So, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right, I thought it was a great season finale. Everyone had been saying ahead of it, expect a roller coaster of emotions. They were right. Like, a lot happened in this episode. A lot of big things. And what I had posted about it after watching it is, everything that happened, pretty much, we had predicted at some point, right?
Yeah.
Whether we predicted it ahead of time or during the episode, I'm like, oh, this, and this.
Yeah.
And even though it was predictable, I've been saying this all along, like it's predictable in a good way, like it's a feel good predictable, like you like that you know what's going on. It still made me cry at the end. Yeah. And I was still surprised by the order of events that were revealed at the end of the episode. Like I had all those tidbits kind of figured out, but the fact of like what order things happened in it was like, oh, that hit me. So yeah, I actually cried at the end a couple times in this episode. Yeah, which I don't think shows don't make me cry a lot. This Is Us made me cry a lot.
Yeah, I remember you introducing me to This Is Us as a show that makes you cry every week.
It did in the beginning.
And I'm like,
after a while it stopped, but
and my response to you was like, why would I want to watch a show that makes me cry all the time? But, that's the difference between being a guy and a woman. But anyway, I did, in fact, enjoy This Is Us. I watched the entire show eventually and covered quite a bit of it. Yeah, so I was actually happy to be proven right about a couple of things.
Yes, I saw a lot of your predictions specifically came true in this episode. A couple things we were off on during our season. But all in all, I think, we were headed in the right direction.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, I don't like being hyped up to the point where I'm told I'm going to have a roller coaster of emotions watching the episode. It tends to make me feel pressure to actually feel those things, and it takes away from my enjoyment. So I kind of prefer not to hear those type of things. So that impacted my first viewing. Okay. And the other thing that impacted my first viewing was the fact that the CW act was massively screwing up on me. It just kept freezing up and I had to restart it. So that was affecting my mood when watching the episode because I was getting frustrated. The second time through was a much more enjoyable experience. Yeah. But nevertheless, I do have a few issues here and there, and we'll get to them.
I have one kind of issue with this, and we'll talk about it. I have a rant about it somewhere in the middle of my notes, but the timing in this episode is really weird and wonky.
Yeah.
So Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed the episode. I think maybe they were trying to fit a little more into a 42-minute episode of television than they should have.
Right.
But I think in general they pulled it off.
Yeah. There's some beautiful, absolutely beautifully done scenes. And then some stuff that are like, I like the ideas, but not necessarily the execution.
Right,
kind of
I can see that.
Yeah.
Fair to mention here, no Frank and Edna on this episode.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
They didn't make an appearance in the season finale.
Yep.
So their characters went on vacation, 2 episodes ago?
Mm-hmm.
And we had speculated they'd be back for the finale. Of course they'll make an appearance in the finale, when they did not. They're still on vacation.
And I understand that you posted the question on Twitter.
Yeah, so I was like, I understand Frank and Edna are on vacation, and that's why they're not here. But I was like, is there a real world explanation for why they're not in this episode? Like, were the actors unavailable? Was something going on in their lives? And yeah, I had posted that on Twitter, X, and Andrea Menard, who plays Edna, liked my comment, retweeted it, but didn't offer any answer. So I'm still not sure exactly what was going on with that. I feel like there has to be some real world reason.
Maybe we can get her and
like
explain it
I don't
herself.
feel like that was their creative choice to just not have these characters appear in the finale. Like, there had to have been a reason they were like unavailable.
Right. It's very unusual, unless it's for story purposes, that your main characters are not in your finale.
Right. And in this show, we have 3 leads. And then Frank and Edna are the other 2 main characters. And then, like, those are the 5 people whose pictures we see in the opening credits, right? They are the main cast, those 5. And then you have your Reed Price and Lindura and Thomason.
That sounds about right. Thomason.
See, it's when I'm not trying to separate the names that I mix them up. When I'm just trying to say it organically. So yeah, you have those, who are like our main recurring people.
And the main recurring people all showed up in this episode.
Everybody made an appearance in this episode.
Right.
Everybody. We saw Jackson, Connie, and Tom. We saw Caleb.
Yeah, who I don't even know what to consider him. He's more like a guest star.
The lower tier of recurring characters.
Right.
We saw, of course, Rob and Sydney. We even saw Finn, Rafe, that whole group. But yeah, no Frank and Edna. And it was weird.
Yes.
It was almost like you forget that they're supposed to be there because they weren't like mentioned even.
Right.
So yeah, it felt like an odd thing. And I feel like there has to be some explanation for that.
Yeah, maybe we can get Andrea Menard onto our show and have her explain. I think we'd probably get her, but we'll see. All right, so anything else before we get into this thing?
One other piece of news.
Oh, yeah.
Season 2 is wrapping filming this week.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we still don't have a date, do we?
We don't have a date, but we have a coming soon.
Right.
According to CW.
Specifically on the CW.
Right. Which pretty much, it hasn't been said, but it pretty much locks it in for me that we're getting, we're going to air the same time Canada's seeing
right.
it.
Coming soon.
Hopefully even like the same night. That would be great. If everybody sees it literally at the same time.
I don't know what the definition of coming soon is, but I'm pretty sure it's not a year.
Right. Coming soon means, within the next few months, I think. That's where we're at. If we're wrapping filming, I say give it 3 or 4 months for post, and we're going to see it possibly March or April would be my guess.
Okay.
But as soon as we have an air date, we will share that.
Absolutely. All right. So do we want to just dive into this?
Let's dive in.
All right. So we begin at Sullivan's Crossing. Sully is having Sullivan's Crossing appraised by a guy named George.
Yeah, and George is played by Lewis Hodgson,
who I swore I've seen in things, but when I went through his page, I didn't recognize anything. So
I recognize, I think, some things that we see on other actors that we've been seeing pop up.
We see the same kind of credits that the large majority of the cast have.
Right.
But I don't recognize him
like that you've seen him in something.
Yeah. And I thought I had seen him, the guy, before. I guess he just looks really similar to someone I've seen in the past. But all right, so he's thinking about getting a second mortgage, and then we cut to Maggie, who's telling Jackson, Connie, and Tom that Jackson is doing well.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
Oh, you skipped a couple paragraphs in my notes.
Oh, okay. What do you have in your notes that you want to get back to?
Well, just as a note, does this appraiser So he tells Sully, well, yeah, all right, cool. You want to get a second mortgage? I'm going to need this from you, this from you, this from you. So he's making it sound like he's the one making some decisions, right? Or at least representing a bank here.
Right.
And so does he not know that Sully's behind on his first mortgage? Because that second banker that Sully went to sure knew.
Right.
And they had a whole screaming match saying you can't borrow any more money from anybody.
Right.
So does this guy not have a clue? I mean, obviously, by him saying, I need your profit and loss statements and I need to see all your books, Sully isn't going to get this loan.
Right.
But he doesn't know that going in, which I thought was weird because the other guy knew immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of vaguely done. We're not really sure what this guy knows or doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it almost seems kind of like he's coming in blind, but
they knew each other.
Right.
Like, they seem to have a past.
Yeah. And they also recommend a seller or a person you
right,
could sell
that was
to.
the next thing I was going to say is, just like the other two bankers, George says, hey, I got another client.
Right.
This guy who owns a golf course across the lakes looking for another piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants Sully to sell.
Right.
And of course, Sully doesn't want to do that. This land's been in his family for generations, yada, yada, yada.
Well, they don't concern themselves with the nostalgia of it all.
It's just that that's what every single person suggests to him. This is the third banker now that's like, well, you can't afford to be here, but you can afford to sell it.
Right. Basically. Yeah, this is a matter of, basically a bunch of business tycoons versus someone who basically owns this place because his father did. It's more of a nostalgia thing. It's a family thing.
Right.
The bankers don't care about that.
Of course.
100% not. So Maggie ends up telling, the group at the hospital that she's leaving. Connie says she'll have a spot on search and rescue anytime she wants. Cal from the hallway says, so you're leaving. And we have our credits.
Yep.
After the credits, Cal and Maggie walk together. Maggie says she built her career focusing on one part of a patient, and being at Sullivan's Crossing made her realize just how wrong that was. Cal says she's a special person, and he's grateful to have gotten a chance to know her.
Mm-hmm.
Rob talks to his new assistant, and in walks Sydney. Rob says that Sydney being there was never meant to be permanent. He knows what happened in New York and doesn't want her to run away from her future. He doesn't want Finn and him to stand in her way. In response, she says she gets it, and he's like, you do? But then she's like, yeah, I'm not wanting here, so I'm just gonna quit.
Yeah.
So, I'm guessing you don't really get it.
But... So yeah, as we've been saying week after week, this family does not know how to communicate with each other.
No.
So he wants, he hired this girl to come be the assistant manager to help run the diner so that their whole family, all three of them, can have more time to themselves, have more time with each other, and have a life.
Right.
And he feels like he's taking advantage of Sydney by occupying every minute of her life, right?
Right, yeah.
And he's like, I just want to let you live a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mean go away.
Right. I think, I don't know. I think the problem is on Sydney's side of the ball. Yes, Rob can communicate better. Yes, maybe he should have been talking to her a different way.
Right.
But Sydney's, I don't know where she gets these ideas because it's not what Rob is saying at all.
Well, we get some of it, later when she's explaining to Rafe
and
her version of what happened.
In that scene, I'm also like, but where did you get that idea? Like, Rob certainly hasn't indicated that.
Okay, so she was upset. Was it last? I think it was last week that he was interviewing people without talking to her. So why, Rob, did you hire somebody without talking to her?
Right.
You should have been like, great, I'm going to get back to you. Sit down with your sister and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, I've picked out a candidate I really like. Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how it's going to work. Maybe, you want to meet her before we commit to this.
Mm-hmm.
Bring Sydney into the conversation.
Right.
After you saw how upset she was about the interviews happening.
Right.
And I don't know if this is one of the people we saw in the interviews.
It kind of looked like the one that came in at the end.
This actress had a line, but of course IMDb's not giving her a credit, so I don't know who it was.
Yeah, like we said, Internet Movie Database has been
it's
terrible.
Broken on this series. It's really broken in this episode. Half of the people that appear in this episode aren't in the credits for it.
Yeah. I couldn't find the actor. Actually, I think I did find the actor who played George. That's how
he was there. Yeah. But half of the people in the trial aren't there. Like people we've seen plenty of times before.
Yeah.
Like Andrew's not in the credits. Um, the lawyer's not. Neither of the lawyers are in the credits.
Oh yeah.
The judge isn't in the credits.
Yeah, and he looked familiar too, and unfortunately I can't figure out who he is because the Internet Movie Database won't tell me.
Yeah. So whoever this assistant manager is, though, I'm wondering if she might be a potential love interest for Rob next season.
Aw, well that's not a good idea.
He's got to find somebody.
Yeah, but that's not a good idea.
No, that's not a good idea. But I was looking at all the characters we have, and this comes later, of course, when we get a conversation of him saying, I really hope we can find love again, and I'm thinking, well, he needs somebody, right?
Right,
and who can we give him? Not Lola.
It's funny because no, definitely not. It's funny because Reed Price agrees with you.
Yeah, I know he mentioned that.
He said that in our interview.
He said that before we even started this series, so maybe that bug was in my head all along.
Yeah.
Of Reed Price saying Rob really needs a woman in his life. But I was thinking, we just introduced a new woman, right? If she's going to be the assistant manager, she might have a actual role next season,
right?
And join the cast, or she could be gone by then. Who knows? But yeah, anybody but Lola.
No, you don't like Lola for Rob?
No.
You like Lola for anybody?
Maybe we should introduce Lola to Andrew.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't think she deserves that.
I think they might get along.
Yeah, maybe. They both. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, she decides to quit. She also says she's gonna move out. I think she says that in the scene.
Yeah, she says I'll be out of here. I'll be out of your house by tonight.
Right.
Which is a statement that comes up later when I'm like, well, what's going on with the timeline in this episode?
Right. Yeah.
So Finn's there. He hears all this. He hugs Sydney. He's very upset and begs her not to leave.
And Rob calls after her and says they need to talk about this.
You needed to talk about this a month ago.
Right. And basically, that's essentially the end of this plot line. We do see a little glimpses of it.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit later when Sid's talking to Rafe. But I think that's a wrap on Rob and Finn.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, Rob we see in one more scene.
Oh, yeah. Cal. I just alluded to that scene.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's funny because, if there's one thing I'm disappointed about in the finale, it's this storyline. And,
that's something we've been saying.
Yes, exactly.
The Shandon storyline feels a little weird.
Underdeveloped. Honestly.
Yeah. It's overdeveloped for the story we get.
Right.
Right? Because we're not focusing on it enough, it feels like we're focusing on it too much.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely don't want them to lose it. I want them to build it up and make it a bigger part of the story.
I want them to expand on it, and start playing with some of these ideas more.
Yeah, we just need a whole Shandon's Diner spinoff.
Right. Yeah, I think I was actually going to propose that to Reed Price when we talk to him again. All right, so Caleb visits Jackson, or no? Yeah,
yes.
No,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I got that order right. In the hospital. It turns out that he got the nerve to talk to his dad, which of course happened off screen. I would have loved to have actually seen this conversation.
Yeah.
That's another little issue I have, but...
Well, this is another storyline that, it's one of the...
Underdeveloped
It's one of the, side plots, right? And, I'm okay with where they leave these characters.
Basically.
Where we don't make a big... part of the story.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to go one way or the other, right? You either have to have the stories just be side plots, or you have to go all the way with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Shandon story's kind of in the middle
Somewhere
of that.
In the middle.
And
yeah,
that's
that makes
a problem.
Sense. Yeah.
But this one I feel like it's okay. It feels comfortably as a side plot, I think, this family.
All right. Caleb is heading back to school. He tells him he could visit during spring break.
Yeah, which it's July right now. We got a whole lot of school breaks before spring break.
Right.
That one's not even this semester coming up. That's the following semester.
Yeah, so he's not going to visit for an entire year.
Yeah, that felt a little weird that he said spring break. And of course, Jackson says, I could visit you on campus. I think Jackson realized how far away spring break is.
Right.
Since we're in the middle of summer vacation.
He tells him that he never felt like he did before. He never felt like he does now about anyone. Jackson says neither did he. Caleb asks him if he'd be okay if he gives him a goodbye kiss, and Jackson agrees to this, and it's a very lovely scene.
Yeah, their first and last kiss for now.
And I don't know that we're going to see Jackson again. We don't know that he's in season 2.
I got a feeling we're going to see Jackson in season 2, but he's going to go away.
go away.
Like, early in the season, probably to college.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel, because when we come back, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be the same summer. I don't think we're going to have an advancement on the timeline, because we got things we're dealing with still.
Right.
But maybe partway through the season, the timeline's going to advance, and Jackson's going to go away to school. That's my guess.
Makes sense. Sully and Cal see Maggie off. They each get a hug, and off she goes.
And she goes and drives back to Boston.
At the courthouse, Maggie is with Walter and Phoebe. Oh, joy. She runs into Andrew, who says he only came to show his support.
Yeah, so we're at the trial now.
Right, yep.
So we skipped ahead. She just did a 10-hour drive, and now we're at the trial.
Mm-hmm. She gives him a lukewarm thanks. She's not excited about his presence.
Yeah,
but
it is nice that he came to support her. It's kind of sad none of the Sullivan's Crossing team came.
Right. Phoebe says they are so glad he came. Once again, speaking for Maggie.
Yeah. And
being annoying. And every time she speaks, I'm annoyed by her.
Yeah, I gave very little attention to Phoebe in this episode.
Yeah. Maggie gets called by her lawyer to go to the courtroom. She asks she asked the lawyer why Andrew was there. And her lawyer says Walter...
No, it was Dr. Callahan that came in at that point.
Oh, okay.
So Dr. Callahan, who runs the surgery department at the hospital.
Yeah, that's right.
Is who came in, and that's who she was saying, wait, why is he here?
Right, and it's because Walter asked him to be there.
Right, so that's Dr. Callahan. We met him in the pilot. Of course, he's not in the credits for this episode.
So that doesn't help.
But we talked about him in the pilot. I didn't look up who he was again. But...
He has a passing resemblance to Sean Asmore, who was in one of the X-Men, who was in the X-Men movies. I don't think it's actually him, but he looks kind of like him. I feel
like you may have brought that up last time we mentioned this character.
Did I?
Maybe.
Okay.
We'd have to go back and listen.
All right.
But yeah, we met Dr. Callahan in the first episode at the gala.
Gotcha. All right, so Cal is at Shannon's and asks about the new employee. Rob says he hired her to take the pressure off of him and Sydney.
He's like, oh, you got a new waitress?
Right.
And Rob's like, no, she's the assistant manager. And I think even Cal was a little confused by that.
Right. So Sydney... So instead of this giving them, the pressure off and the time for their lives, this ended up backfiring because Sydney quit, moved out, and now his son won't even talk to him. So bravo on that. That really helped your relationship with your son. Yeah,
it just keeps getting worse.
Right.
We haven't had any successful progression in this family.
There's nothing in Rob's actions that's bad. He has only the best intentions.
Oh, yeah. And I think they all do.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of nobody's communicating with each other and really talking out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Both what's going on in their heads and what's actually going on.
Right.
And, fixing things. I think they really need some therapy. I think I mentioned that before.
I think we've said that several times. Rob says at times like this, he wishes his wife was there. Cal brings up his own dead wife for the first time.
Yeah, so we finally get this heart-to-heart about the fact that they're both widows. I've been waiting for that scene ever since we first learned about Lynn.
Right.
Like, okay, we have two widows here.
Right.
They need to talk.
Right.
And finally they do. I'm happy we got that.
Yeah. This is a great scene, mostly from Cal's perspective. Rob asks if you ever really get over it. Cal asks him if he thinks it's possible to find that love again, and Rob says he hopes so.
Yeah, he really hopes so.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope that everybody gets to have some happy storylines next season. Because we can't just have, people falling and dying.
Yeah, that would be a very sad series. We had falls, but not necessarily deaths all the time.
We had one death this season.
Yeah, that's true. But he was old, and it was his time anyway.
Yeah, well...
Okay, so back to the trial. The prosecutor questions the nurse about what happened.
Okay.
This was...
Before you get into the trial, this is just where I want to expand a little bit on my problems with the timing in this episode.
All right.
So since Sydney hasn't moved out yet, right? That scene happens later. Everything that we're just seeing at the diner, that's the same day.
Yes.
That Sydney quit. We're still in that day.
Yep.
The day that Maggie got in the car to make a 10-hour road trip.
Right.
Okay, and the next scene, we're at the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the rest of the episode, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between the trial and things happening at Sullivan's Crossing.
Right.
The trial's obviously happening. I mean, it might be taking place over multiple days, but it's happening in one day or in a condensed timeline, right?
Right.
Where everything we're seeing taking place at Sullivan's Crossing, time's progressing. Including the scene we just saw, was the same day. The trial must be at least a few days in the future. And then as we see scenes happening in Sullivan's Crossing, we're going to go to the next day, the next day, the next day. And we're still in the trial.
Right.
And it's just really weird timing for me, like seeing how this is taking place. Because obviously, she didn't have the trial the same day that she drove 10 hours from Halifax to Boston.
You don't think?
I don't think. So and I get that they're bouncing back and forth between the two different stories, but the timing feels weird, and it just continues to feel weirder the further we get into this episode.
Right.
To the point where, when the timeline, when the two, like when we get to about after the trial, and the stories converge again, it's like, where are we in the timeline? I'm so confused.
Right. Yeah, I can certainly see that. All right, so yeah, this is the nurse. Who was this nurse's name?
This is Nurse Patty Benning, played by Renee Clark.
I knew we knew her. I just didn't have the information on her. We see Mrs. Markup, and the nurse says that Maggie did not complete the exam. She didn't do like a CT scan.
She says she didn't do a neurological examination of Kevin Markiff. And we don't specifically mention the pupillary eye response that we focused on during the deposition. So I don't know if they're referring to like that same thing or if this is something totally different. I have no idea.
Later they're saying she didn't do a CT scan.
Right, the CT scan comes up. And I think, if the pupillary eye response had warranted a problem, you would then do the CT scan.
Okay.
But we don't mention that specifically, which I know for a fact she did do the eye thing.
Yep.
But I don't know if there was more to it that she was supposed to do as far as the neurological examination.
Okay.
But Nurse Patty says, no, she didn't do it. And at this point, I feel like Maggie is conceded to the fact that she didn't do it.
Right.
And again, I don't know, like, was there something else she was supposed to do?
Yeah.
Other than look at his eyes?
I'm not a trained doctor, so I couldn't tell you.
Would you order a CT scan for everyone that's been in a car accident? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not really totally sure there. But, I mean, in this specific instance, the doctor is trying to say that she should have done it and thus is liable for what happened. She's making that argument. The other lawyer should probably be making the exact opposite case, that maybe that CT scan wasn't needed. But he doesn't make that case. In fact, he's terrible. He's a terrible lawyer.
Yeah, and I'll have things to say when we get further into his testimony. But I think some of the things, it's like, I feel like you're making it worse.
Right, yeah. And yeah, I definitely have some things to say. Yeah, the trial, I had some issues with it, for sure.
But we'll come back to the trial, and we're going to jump back to Timberlake now.
Yep, Raph picks up Sydney. She says that leaving Finn is the hardest thing she has ever had to do.
Yeah, which she's doing on her own decision.
Right. Raph asks, why is that? And she says, because Finn is getting too attached to her and it's interfering in his relationship with Rob. And Raph asks, did Rob say that? And she says, he didn't have to. She just knows that's what he thinks.
Right.
How?
So
what?
So she's blaming herself.
Yeah.
For Rob and Finn's relationship being rocky.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe, Sydney, stop taking Finn away to the park by yourself.
Well, yeah, I've been saying that all season long.
Right.
You need to spend more time with Finn while she takes Finn and goes to the park.
How about all three of you go to the park together?
Well, someone has to stay behind to run Shandon's, but...
And he fixed that problem. They have another person now. They can help.
Right. So, I don't understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, so Rob feels guilty that he's monopolizing her life. Mm-hmm. She feels, I think, guilty that her and Finn have gotten so close. Remember, Finn called her mom when he was falling asleep the other episode. Yep. And I think that's freaking her out. Mm-hmm. Like, she can't make a commitment in her life. I feel like she's even feeling too committed to her own family here, right? Like, I feel like she's looking for an escape, subconsciously.
Well, yeah, I don't buy anything that she actually says. Like, I think what she's saying here is justification for what she's doing, but I don't actually believe that's what's going on.
Right.
Like, something deeper is clearly happening
here. She's expressed feelings like, Rob's trying to get rid of her in the diner by hiring this other person.
Right.
He doesn't want her around because she's, taking over their life and taking, Finn's attention away from him. And the whole thing's just really weird.
Yeah.
The whole situation's really weird, and they really need to talk to each other, and I plan on telling them that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too. I plan to have, I definitely wanted to ask about this situation for sure. Like, hey, what do you think about your characters?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here?
What is going on here?
So, yeah, she's going to go live with Raph, and she makes a point of saying that they are not, in fact, together anymore. He's like, we'll get to know each other, blah, blah, blah.
And he even says, I'll sleep on the couch.
Right.
And Rafe's a really good guy, and I hope that they figure this out and end up having a relationship.
Right. So, back to the trial. Maggie is on the stand, giving her own version of what happened. She asked if she had she's asked if she had a conversation with a couple of doctors about being late to the gala. One is a Dr. I can't even say the name.
I didn't write the doctor's name.
Zapazikov. And you know what's really funny?
What's that?
The guy that was involved in my lawsuit was named Dr. Zapazikov. Now, I don't know if it's exactly the same name, but it's pretty damn close. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. She answers yes. And she's asked about talk and die syndrome, that you can seem fine and, not feel the need to seek medical attention, and then you just die.
Right. Basic idea is, somebody has a trauma, they fail to get any help because they think they don't need it, and they can be good for up to 48 hours, and then they just die from these injuries that never presented any symptoms.
There was no CT scan done. And the medication for his pain could result in the same symptoms as traumatic brain injury, so there would be no reason for him to think that he had a problem. You know what? I could argue from the other side that this is the indication that Maggie is not liable. But then, again, the lawyer doesn't make this case.
Right. So she prescribed the morphine.
Yep.
And, would have been told at that point, it's going to be normal for you to experience headaches and nausea and whatever else they said.
Now, at this point, he would also receive the instruction that if he's experiencing unusual symptoms or pain or such and such, to call the doctor, and then the doctor can give further instructions, which this is how the trial that I attended or was a part of the jury for went. And basically, he could give, if he made that call, she could say, well, okay, if these symptoms persist, go to the emergency room and then have them checked out.
But the problem here, and what the lawyer's saying is, it was the exact same set of symptoms.
Right.
That you're being told, these are the normal side effects of this medication.
Right.
But then, it would have made him not think anything was wrong if you're told this is the side effects of this medication.
Is that her fault or a random happenstance, which happens?
Is it her? It's not her fault that, the medication has the same side effects as a TBI. And the whole thing is she should have caught the TBI.
Right.
Okay, of course she should have. But was she negligent?
Right.
As the reason she didn't catch it. Because you know what? Not everything gets caught.
Right.
Doesn't matter how good of a doctor you are, how many protocols you follow. You're not going to catch everything.
Right. There's basically an act of God factor in that, if you, for lack of a better phrase. All right. So we cut to Cal, who's looking in the box.
Yeah, Lynn's box, and he puts it in the pile of camping gear, which we in this episode did confirm what's in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had speculated that it was maybe her ashes, and that seems to be exactly what's in the box. Sully paints his car.
Oh, was he painting a car? I thought he was painting a boat.
I don't know.
He's painting something.
Yeah, he sees a daughter and a father walk by, and he gets wistful for a time that he lost.
They were going fishing, and it just made him. He looked really kind of mournful watching this family.
Meanwhile, Cal is skipping some rocks, and he tries to call what I presume is Maggie.
Yeah, he tried to call Maggie. He got her voicemail.
Right.
And then didn't leave a message.
Right.
And in actuality, she's probably driving to Boston, based on the timeline,
or already in the
trial. She's in the trial,
and there's some
there's some kind of time zone. I think maybe Maggie drove through Faraway Tree to get to Boston.
Maybe, perhaps, there's some kind of temporal thing going on here. Time mechanics that are a little wonky. All right, so back to the trial. Mrs. Marcos says that Maggie was more focused on getting her to leave than telling her what's going on with her son, and that's probably because she wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, which is a point that her lawyer should have made.
I remember watching that very first scene.
Yeah, I know.
And Maggie says, he's going to be fine. I
Right.
promise. And I went, no, he's not going to be fine. I know it now. Just because she said that, you know he's not going to be fine. Never tell somebody that you promise their kid's going to be fine.
Right, especially not before Christmas. Because then, for sure, they're going to die. She says that Maggie said he was going to be okay. And then she has an emotional outburst saying, like, basically that Maggie is responsible for her death. Her lawyer tries to get that stricken from the record, but the judge is like, nah, I'll allow that. Maggie's lawyer asks if she had any prior lawsuits. She says she had, and she had an allergic reaction to the medication, so she sued the pharmacy.
The pharmacy filled the prescription wrong, so she sued the pharmacy, which is a logical thing to sue for.
And then he asked her, does that mean you're a litigious person? Okay, you don't get any points for artfulness there. If you want to try to make this case, you don't just out and out ask that question.
Right.
Like, you kind of lay out the facts to present your argument.
And then you leave it.
And then you don't just like, isn't it true that you're a litigious person who likes to sue people?
Yeah, and that comment did get stricken from the record.
Yeah,
of course, that's a game lawyers will play. They'll say things they know are going to get stricken, but doesn't mean this jury didn't hear it being said.
Right.
Even if we're going to pretend we didn't hear that thing.
Yeah, so the other lawyer objects, and the judge sustains and tells him to watch himself. I'll remind you that he says, watch yourself for what comes next. Okay, so she is asked about him playing football, that he suffered a concussion.
He suffered several past concussions, I believe is what they said.
And the day he borrowed his car, he was coming from practice and complained of headaches to the school nurse. She says he never spoke to her son, presumably about that.
Right.
Or the school nurse.
So yeah, she didn't know that he had, but apparently it's on records, he had headaches that day. And this is where I'm not sure why this line of questioning is supposed to be helpful to Maggie.
Right.
So if the idea is he was sick from a football concussion that happened prior to the accident, that still happened prior to him going to the hospital and seeking medical care.
Right.
So whether, this came from the accident or a concussion playing football, it still would have been present in the same fashion that the hospital should have caught it if there was something to catch.
Right. I guess the idea would be that this is a triage situation. So Maggie was looking specifically at the injuries that occurred as a result of the accident, but not necessarily for something that would be caused prior to that.
Right, but if
not
it
necessarily
was
looking for a concussion.
If it was the same thing,
yeah.
Like if the problem is, he had an aneurysm because of this, and you should have caught it by looking at his eyes,
right?
It would have been the same thing.
Right, I guess. And also, the lawyer then looks over at Walter, who nods at him, and we know we're gonna get some kind of bomb. I thought we were gonna get some evidence that he manufactured or something to prove his case
and
here.
So what we get is the same thing that Walter told Maggie this before.
He proceeds to fling Walter's accusations at her, and which is again something that would not happen. This would not be allowed. Which sends Mrs. Markup running from the courtroom.
Yeah, basically saying the whole thing about it was your car, right?
Right.
Because it's your car, you feel guilty that you killed him.
Right.
And you're just looking for somewhere to place your guilt.
So the judge ends up striking these comments and adjourns for recess. I don't think the judge went far enough. The judge should have found him in contempt. He already gave him a warning, 3 lines ago.
Yeah, well, he then brings them all into his chamber, so we don't know what he said to them.
Right, but at this point, the lawyer would be found in contempt. This would not be allowed. This is not behavior that is allowed in a courtroom. So this is not realistic at all. But, it's not like this is the only show or movie that's ever been guilty of not presenting, trial situations in a realistic way.
Right.
But still, this would not be allowed.
I mean, she would have been in contempt just for leaving the stand.
Right. Yeah, maybe, but so would the lawyer.
Yeah, the whole thing was kind of a circus, right?
Right.
So she runs out into the hallway. Maggie follows her, which also should not have been allowed.
Right, well, that shouldn't have been allowed during the deposition either.
No, but now we're literally in the middle of the trial. The
Right.
lawyers all go to talk to the judge, and nobody's caring that both sides, the defendant and the plaintiff, those are the two sides, right?
Yes.
Are in the hallway talking to each other. You're not allowed to do that.
I'm pretty sure there's bailiffs that would prevent that type of situation.
Exactly.
But yeah. So basically, Maggie says that she didn't know that her attorney was about to do that.
Which is true.
And she says she can't bring her son back, but she can do whatever it takes to help, to...
She wants to make it right.
Right.
And I don't know
So-
what you're going to do to make it right. But she's basically admitting guilt here.
So, okay, if she wants to do this, there's no reason why the trial has to proceed. She could, try to reach a settlement, which she would be doing through her lawyer.
Right.
But she doesn't have to go all the way through this trial. They can reach some kind of plan. Because, okay, so what happens in this trial is monetary. Like, you get a monetary reward if you're found negligent.
She's being sued.
Right. So if she really wants to take responsibility, all she has to do is come to some kind of settlement agreement with Mrs. Markov, and this would be all over.
Yeah. But remember, there's also the fact that her medical license is at stake here.
True, but I mean, at this point, she seems to be willing to sacrifice that. So.
Right. So yeah, this conversation right here is the turning point for both parties that we'll soon see. But it feels a little weird that she's just like, I'm so sorry.
Right.
And Mrs. Markov in this moment realizes that Maggie realizes she's a person. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of all of this is, what she told us earlier, being at Sullivan's Crossing made her realize patients are people.
Right. Which, would have been something that she should have already known. But, I said this before, I think she intellectualized the practice of medicine and didn't really...
And you know what really changed it for her? We can pinpoint it to Jackson getting hurt. Mm-hmm. So good thing Jackson fell and, split his head open.
Right.
Because...
I'm sure he's grateful to have been able to provide that lesson for Maggie. I mean, also, some of this comes down to, the mentorship of Walter, who's a terrible, terrible human being.
Yeah.
But okay.
So you're back at Sullivan's Crossing.
Yep. Cal looks at the calendar.
The calendar, which we see Sunday the 21st is not yet crossed off. Mm-hmm. Monday the 22nd is the date circled.
Yep.
And again, I'm going to bring up the fact this is not a 2022 or 2023 calendar since none of those dates are on the right day for that. But I do see at the close-up that we see of this calendar, whatever year it's supposed to be, it's a leap year. Because you can see all the months at the bottom. There is a February 29th on this calendar.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what year this calendar is supposed to be for, but again, I'll bring up the timeline. Feels really weird if we're being told right now at Sullivan's Crossing it's Sunday the 21st. The trial's definitely not taking place on a Sunday.
So, yeah, are you thinking... I mean, it's possible that these scenes are not taking place at the exact same time.
They're 100% not.
But that's not really made clear within the editing itself.
Yeah.
Like, I think if they had made that a little bit more clear, then you wouldn't have these particular issues.
Right. So I'm like, now we're after the trial now, right? Because pretty soon Maggie comes back.
Right.
Like the same time Cal leaves.
Right.
So we've moved forward, even though before we were behind.
This is more confusing than Quantum Leap.
It's just the timeline really caught me up, and I shouldn't have to think about the timeline, but it did that to me.
Right.
It just made me go, wait, what? When are we? We're on July 21st, Sunday, July 21st. The calendar's showing us right there. That's the next day that's not crossed off.
Now, when was the trial being held?
Exactly.
I mean, what day was the trial?
We don't know, but it wasn't Sunday, July 21st.
So Cal ends up writing a note for Maggie, and then we go to Maggie's lawyer approaching Maggie and telling her they have her right where they want her. Okay.
Yeah, things look good, Scott says, and Maggie tells him she wants to claim responsibility and have the judge rule in favor of Mrs. Markov.
He strongly disagrees with this, saying it's insane that they'll take her medical license away, and Maggie wants Mrs. Markov to know that she cares.
Yeah, she says, I'll do it because I need her to understand that I care. Mm-hmm.
Consider flowers.
I mean, I get the whole, you're taking responsibility thing, but losing your medical license is kind of the hugest thing you could do in your life right now.
I just don't think it would go that far, especially if they settled. You don't necessarily take a medical license away for getting sued, because that happens all the time in the medical profession.
Right, but the thing is, if she's admitting medical malpractice...
I mean, a settlement doesn't necessarily do that.
But that's what she wants to do. She wants to say, yes, I did it. I'm guilty.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is she could just do a settlement with her, and Mrs. Markov gets some money and get some satisfaction from the situation, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah, but Maggie's literally I want to give her my medical license.
Right. Maggie wants Mrs. Okay, I already said that. So they go into the courtroom. Her attorney, Scott, says that she would like to address the court. The judge says that this is highly unusual. And, at this point, the other thing that concludes his trial has already happened. So none of this is even necessary.
Right.
So shouldn't that be brought up before Maggie makes a fool of herself?
Well, I mean, if the judge is being told she wants to talk, he's like, I'm going to listen to what she has to say.
All right. So she stands up and asks to find in favor of the plaintiff. Her family, meanwhile, objects.
Yeah, her mom and Walter are horrified that this is happening.
She tells Mrs. Markup that she doesn't know if ordering the CT scan would have saved her son's life, but somewhere along the way she stopped seeing patients and their families as people, and that she is truly sorry. And this is a good speech, well delivered by the actress Morgan Cohan.
Yeah, this would have been a great speech, like the day of the deposition.
Yeah.
To avoid going to trial.
She tells the judge that she is prepared to take responsibility. Walter has an outburst saying, hey, Scott, are you going to do something about this? He's told to sit down and shut up, not in exactly that way.
Yeah,
but,
because, he has no room to speak right now. Like, we're literally in trial.
Right. So the judge says, there aren't many people willing to take responsibility for their actions, but it's too late. The plaintiff already asked for the motion to dismiss all charges, and that is the end of that. Her family hugs her. Maggie goes and talks to Mrs. Markov, asking her why she had dropped the charges, and she says she wanted Maggie to understand what she had lost and what she was going through, and so that it might not happen again.
Right. She said all the money in the world couldn't replace her son. She doesn't care about the money.
Right.
She's basically saying, I wanted to make sure that you learned from this experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that you have learned, and you're going to be more careful in the future, which is what she wanted. She didn't want Maggie to lose her license and not be a doctor. Mm-hmm. She wanted to help make her a better doctor. Mm-hmm. And, we had this, and it was a beautiful scene. I think Shelley Thompson did amazing throughout this trial.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just like how much acting she did when it wasn't even her turn to speak. Mm-hmm. All of her facial expressions throughout the whole trial. Mm-hmm. I think she was the best in the whole room, honestly, as far as playing the part, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you saw her as this grieving mother, and you can really understand where she's coming from, being like, I just don't want anyone else to have to go through this.
Right. Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. Walter comes out and tells her she needs to learn to develop a thicker skin. There is no room in their profession for guilt, and Walter continues to be an absolutely terrible human being.
Yeah, and we see, he's the reason that she forgot patients are people.
My other favorite person, and I say that with full sarcasm in case you didn't note it, Andrew comes out and apologizes, says he's in therapy, he doesn't blame her if he never wants to talk to her again, but he will wait as long as it takes.
Yeah.
He apologizes and then leaves. And goodbye, Andrew. I will never talk to you again.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to.
Yeah, probably. We're probably going to see him next season.
Probably.
But anyway, and, beyond that, based on how this episode goes, Maggie leaves the courtroom, and he's offered a job by Mr. Dr.
Callahan.
Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Dr. Callahan.
I guess both statements are true. Maggie...
Yeah, he still wants to give her a job at Boston. Because remember, last it was like, oh, she's she's on the list of nobody wants you because your name came up in this whole... whatever Bob's thing is. I don't even remember what to call it.
Is it that, or is it this lawsuit situation?
Well, first it was that. Like, as soon as that happened, she couldn't get a job anywhere because her name was involved in it, even though she was, what's the word? Found not to be part of it.
Right. Yeah. Not guilty. Whatever.
There was a word.
Yes.
But then this happened, and it piggybacked the situation. But now it's like, well, everything's better now. I want you to come work for us.
Right. So Maggie says she'll think about it. Phoebe practically accepts the job on her behalf, saying, oh, what's to think about? Oh, she'll definitely be calling you. Shut up, Phoebe. Anyway, so yeah, I don't like Phoebe at all, in case you couldn't tell from... But, I didn't always feel that way, but as the season has progressed, I've really grown to despise her, and Walter, and Andrew.
Boston bad.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of fine people in Boston. These three are not representative of them.
I meant, Boston in this show. All the Boston
okay,
people.
Yeah. Okay.
Her Boston family.
So we're making a specific comment bashing the entire city of Boston. To make that clear.
Just to make that clear, yeah.
So you don't get canceled by the people of Boston. All right, anyway. So they go to the car. So
Walter and Phoebe go to get the car. Maggie said she needs a minute to catch her breath.
And this is where she ends up running into Bob Hollis, who once again pleads to be heard. She still doesn't want to talk to him.
But he finally gets a couple words in.
Right.
Just a couple.
He says, Hollis has been given immunity to catch a bigger fish, and the bigger fish is Walter, and this conversation is interrupted by Walter, who's like, Bob, what are you doing here?
Right, and then Bob just kind of leaves because he's about to tell Maggie all of the terrible things that Walter's done, and, you know, it's probably pretty dangerous for him to Walter to know he's doing that.
Right, and when Walter interrupts, that's played extremely sinister, in an extremely sinister way.
Yeah, but honestly, Maggie needs to cut her ties with her stepfather.
Yeah.
As much as however you have bad feelings with Bob, you need to know more about what the heck he's talking about.
Right.
So here's the deal. If the police, like, this was a huge deal when he got arrested, right? If the police are willing to give him immunity for the whole thing in exchange for information about Walter, whatever Walter's doing has to be, like, atrociously
really
horrible.
I mean, given the fact that he's a completely crappy person,
but I mean, we're not talking like, oh, he's going to lose his license. I'm pretty sure this is he's going to spend his life in prison type of bad.
So this isn't jail walking. This is murder, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what he has on him, and I really wish that like they'd let Bob tell us more. And I'm assuming based on this is the last scene he got, we're going to see more of Bob.
Yeah.
Next season, I hope.
So congratulations to Bob, man. You're definitely going to be in season 2 of Sullivan's Crossing.
I mean, it'd be weird, I think, at this point if they didn't bring him back.
Yeah.
To give us the next bit of this story, right?
Yeah. No, we definitely should see him again. So back at Sullivan's Crossing, Sully's putting away some propane tanks. Maggie says...
so Maggie's now back.
Yep.
She took the 10-hour drive back.
Yep.
At some point.
Right. And Maggie says he thought... that he could use some help at the store. Sully is surprised and asks, what happened to your job in Boston? And she isn't sure she's taking the job.
Yeah, she says she still needs some time to think about what she wants to do next.
Right. Life is much simpler here. And then Sully just straight up calls her out and says, yep, Cal's a good man. You should really tell him how you feel. And she doesn't deny it. Unlike what she did with Sydney, she basically says it's not the right time.
Right.
Not that she doesn't have feelings. So she basically admits that she has feelings here to her father.
And he says he knows what it's like to live with regret and tells her not to make the same mistake.
And it's good advice.
Which she's going to take the wrong thing from that advice.
Yep, unfortunately. So Cal is taking a hike and reaches the ocean. I believe that's the ocean anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely the ocean.
We have flashbacks with his wife, once again played by Laura Vanderboot.
Yeah, another flash of her deathbed, and we learn that she ended her life via medical aid in dying, which is the official term for that. I did do some digging into that.
Now, is that legal in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's what I was looking into. So, assisted suicide, euthanasia is not typically legal. I didn't dig too deep into that. There's a very fine distinction to what happened here. Okay, and the distinction is medical aid in dying, which is what we're seeing. Is when the patient administers the medication themselves.
Okay.
So the doctor can't inject something, the doctor just provides it to the patient. The patient makes the choice to ingest whatever agent it is that's going to end their life. And they have to state to the doctor that they are in right mind to make this decision.
Which we saw.
And they have to have a prognosis of less than 6 months left to live.
Okay.
And this is legal in very specific places. I did write the list down. It's and specifically in the U.S. I didn't look in other countries because they were living in the U.S. when this happened.
Yeah.
It's legal in California, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Vermont, Oregon, and Washington State.
Okay. So are these two in any of those states?
Well, we heard that Cal was from New York. He has New York plates.
Okay.
So I don't know if they were living in New York, but one of the places is New Jersey.
Okay.
So it's very possible that's where they were at.
Okay.
Is what the conclusion I came to.
Right.
But I feel like they did a great job presenting that because we did hear the person off camera say, "Are you of sound mind making this decision?"
Right. I wasn't sure that this was legal at all.
Right, which is why I felt like
that.
I need to look into this a little bit to understand what's happening in this scene.
Like I'm glad that you did that because that answers that question. But like, yeah, I was under the impression that this stuff happens, whether it's legal or not.
Right.
But the way this was presented was that it was official.
Right.
Because they did ask that question, so I wasn't really sure if that was actually a thing that happens like that.
Right. But and apparently it is.
Yeah.
Medical aid in dying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's
not
good to know.
Be confused with euthanasia.
Right.
Which is totally different.
Yeah, so she says that she doesn't want him to watch her supper, but she says she's ready. And we see Cal taking out the box in the present. He opens it, and we cut back and forth. And, we hear this really lovely song that goes along with this. She's drinking something. I'm not sure what that is. That's the euthanasia medicine.
This medicine's going to make you go to sleep and not wake up.
Okay. She says, find the most beautiful place he can find and let the wind carry her, as Cal is releasing her ashes into the wind, into the ocean. And she says he wants him to find someone and we see her say this as Cal is kneeling down by the ocean. Beautifully done scene.
It was great. And this was the first moment in the episode that made me cry. I was like, wow, that was powerful.
Yeah.
And, nothing happened here that we didn't know already.
Right.
We know she died. I mean, we didn't know, that she ended it a little earlier than she had to. But we know that she died. We know that, he's trying to let go of her. We had every indication that the circle on the date was something to do with letting go of her, right? We even suggested perhaps it's throwing her ashes, which is exactly what happened. And yeah, I cried. I was like, this is just so sad and beautiful and intense all at the same time. And yeah, she made him promise to find someone who will make him happy.
So Cal's storyline in this episode, I think, is actually the best storyline of the episode. And it's done a lot through just Chad Michael Murray's acting.
Yeah. And the fact that he had the date on the calendar. He circled a date. This is the date I'm going to do it. And we don't know if there's any significance to that date. Was that her birthday or their anniversary or the day she died? Or did he ambiguously just circle a date and say, that's the day I'm going to let her go?
Right.
And, we've been alluding to that date all season. And there we go. And he does that. And his response afterwards is to remember that she made him promise that he would find someone. And his idea after that is, I'm going to drive back and go tell Maggie how I feel.
Right.
Because the next time we see him, he's driving back.
Oh, okay. That's where he's going? I thought he was going away from Sullivan's Crossing.
No.
All right. So Maggie ends up going to Cal's cabin, encounters Lola, who's hidden the letter he left, and tells him that he checked out. And Maggie ends up leaving upset.
Yeah.
And I would be, I would think this would be tragic and all if, cell phones weren't also a thing.
Right.
Like Cal could easily call her or vice versa. So.
Yeah, exactly. So she, and again, I'm really confused exactly where this moment falls in the whole timeline. Because Lola says he just checked out, even though we already saw him at wherever he went afterwards.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what just means. And later we'll see that, Sully didn't even know that he checked out, which is weird because doesn't he work for him?
I would think so, yes.
So Lola. Oh my goodness.
Well, on the one hand, and this is the only thing I'm going to say in her defense, she looks regretful of her actions, at least.
We finally give her some work to do. She's cleaning the cabin after, someone checked out that's been staying there for months.
Right.
And, is this something Edna would have done? But because she's on vacation, Lola's doing the cleaning?
And maybe that's why she wasn't in the episode, so that this could happen. Yeah.
So all season long, we're like, Lola needs to do something helpful, right? Okay, so she made sandwiches, a week or two ago. And now she's cleaning. She's doing and I'd actually wondered, I don't think I ever actually said it on air, but I'd wondered, who cleans these cabins? Because we never see anything happening in these cabins.
I mean, yeah.
Turnover, between campers. So Lola's cleaning. She has the envelope with Maggie's name on it in her pocket. And it's you finally have something to do, and this is what you do with it. I thought Maggie and Lola had decided to turn over a new leaf.
Yeah, but this isn't necessarily about, Maggie herself. This is about the fact that she has feelings for Cal.
Oh, but this is about Maggie. You're hiding this letter from Maggie.
Well, because she wants Cal for herself.
This isn't going to help.
I mean, no, it's not, but...
I saw one person suggest, it was actually an article I saw, suggest that maybe she was hiding it to protect Maggie because there's something in there that would hurt her feelings or something.
I'm not buying that. No, I don't think that Cal would say anything like that.
That's it at all.
Yeah. But...
And, I want to know what the heck the letter says. Did Lola read the letter? Probably. I want to know what the letter says.
Yeah. Actually, it's quite possible that Lola didn't actually read that letter. She's just hiding it on principle, to keep Maggie and Cal apart because she wants Cal for herself.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, he didn't tell you he was leaving? I thought he would have told you.
Right.
But also, why didn't he tell her?
Yes. Once again,
I mean,
cell phones
he did try calling her, but he didn't leave a message.
I mean, he could text her and let her know what he's doing.
Yeah. Like, hey, I got to do something. Let's catch up next week.
In the technological age of cell phones and text messaging, this does not fly. Like,
yeah. And, you know, she feels abandoned by this.
Yep.
We definitely see that this affects her.
Mm-hmm. And Maggie...
But yeah, just because he checked out of his cabin doesn't mean he, like, vanished forever, right?
Right. You don't know what he's doing. He could be, like, you know, taking a vacation from his vacation. Like, and, you know, once again, cell phones exist. You can always call him. But, all right. Anyway, moving along from that. Maggie, meanwhile, has learned that she's pregnant.
Yeah, she's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
We get a flashback to the day Andrew said this would be a great opportunity for them to start a family, and we reveal a positive pregnancy test.
Yep, and it's very likely Andrew's. I mean, unless she slept with somebody off screen.
Yeah, I'm going to say 100% it's Andrew's.
Which
because
means
they haven't given us any indication to think that it'd be someone else's.
And that's just awful news. Like, that means that we're going to definitely see more of Andrew next season.
Yeah. And, you know, in the same article, I think it was the same article that had suggested Lola was trying to help Maggie. I feel like it was that same article where they had said, oh, we don't know if it's Andrew or Cal's baby.
We were...
I'm pretty sure that we would have known if that happened.
Right, and it didn't. The last thing that we saw was them kissing. And listen, to the person who wrote that article, kissing does not lead to babies. Just so you know. Yeah, so it's definitely Andrew's. So, all right. We have the scene with Sully, who finds Maggie packing to go back to Boston. And she says she has one question. Why didn't she come after her? He says it's complicated. She's upset. She's suddenly back to calling him Sully over Dad.
Yeah.
And basically says that she would never abandon her child before taking off. All right, so I had posed the question to you. Why did their relationship suddenly go backwards so much? And you answered it, and I think I expanded on that in my mind in the sense that basically she's feeling abandoned by Cal. She's just found out that she's pregnant, probably with Andrew's kid.
Right.
And those are two, you know, crappy pieces of news. She's feeling emotional. It's stirring up the abandonment issues, as you suggested to me. And I don't think she's actually taking the step backwards. I think she's just emotional at this point and taking it out on Sully.
Right.
And the main reason for that is, you know, there's that expression, you always hurt the ones you love the most. And it's just her taking her issues out on Sully at that moment. But it's not reflective of their relationship going backwards.
Right. And she says, you know, she's doing what he said. This is his advice, that she doesn't want to have any regrets. And that's why she's going to take the job in Boston. And I think specifically what she's feeling and what she's going through her head is she doesn't want her baby to grow up isolated from its father. Mm-hmm. She wants to go be where her child's father is. Whether or not she wants to be with Andrew, she doesn't want to take her baby and move to a different country like her mother did. And
that's certainly totally reasonable.
Right.
I would argue that she should not be with Andrew.
Yeah, and I hope they don't get together.
No. I mean, that's not necessarily what's best for the child, is to be with somebody, one, that you don't even know how you feel about him, two, who's kind of a piece of crap.
Right. But it is arguably the right decision to live in the same country as your child's father.
Yeah, and I get all that. Obviously, something is going to actually bring her back to Sullivan's Crossing, because this show is not called Boston's Crossing, it's Sullivan's Crossing, and this is where the main action happens.
And, you know, you got that tree you can go through, so it's not really a 10-hour drive.
Right, exactly.
And it was during this same kind of scene that we got a quick flash of Cal driving. He was driving back towards Timberlake. We saw that he was 100 kilometers from Timberlake, and that's the direction he was driving in.
So he's driving back to Sullivan's Crossing.
What I got out of it is he realized, okay, I need to go have a conversation with Maggie now. I need to go find her.
Well, he has absolutely no way of knowing that she's actually in Sullivan's Crossing.
Oh, well, that's true.
Because, you know, they haven't talked to each other because, you know, cell phones don't exist.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use them.
But it definitely showed, the sign definitely showed that he was driving towards Timberlake.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, this is where it also seemed like it was news to Sully that Cal checked out. which that seemed odd.
Right.
Maybe they don't know the timeline either.
Right. I guess not. So Sully is upset. He's rummaging through his own things related to Maggie.
Yeah, it's old photo albums. We see all these news articles of Maggie, and it's showing, he's always paid attention. He's followed her accomplishments throughout her life, even though she doesn't think he's ever paid any attention to her.
Right.
He's got a scrapbook of everything that's happened with her.
And then he has a flashback, and the flashback is intercutting with, seeing Sully, who's looking very distraught.
Right, and he's having a medical situation right now, too.
Yeah.
And it's the same flashback we've seen a few times, the day that Maggie and Phoebe left in the cab. Except this time, we're going to see what happens next.
Right. So after Phoebe drove off with Maggie, Sully chased after her, driving 1 billion miles per hour, and that's when he ends up running into Lola.
Yeah, he's screaming, "You're not going to take my daughter," and he swerves to avoid hitting another car. Instead of slowing down, hits 7-year-old Lola on her bicycle.
And he gets out. He's, distraught.
He calls for help.
Yes. I said off camera to you, like, what happens after this?
Right.
Like, because apparently this was a hit and run.
Right. Like, we know he doesn't take responsibility for
right.
this. So two things could have happened. Either he gets up and leaves.
Right, which would be awful.
Or
that would be severely damaging to his
Or
character.
he does wait for help to come. But, and I think you suggested this, he claims that he found her this way.
Right.
He was driving and found her on the side of the road. That he's the one who found her after someone had run.
Right.
Either one of those, I think, is possible.
I think the second one is a little better for Sully's character.
Yeah.
It doesn't make him be out to be a
But
totally
I don't think we were
person.
told that he's the one who found her.
Right.
So, either way. But we know he doesn't take responsibility for it.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously has always felt the guilt for being the person who hit her.
This, this is one of those major predictions I made. And I turned out to be right. Sully was the one that ran Lola over. And it explains everything. It explains why he didn't go after Maggie. Why?
Right, because the one time he tried to go after her, something tragic happened.
Right.
So now he feels guilt for trying to go after her.
Right. And
he feels guilt for what happened to Lola. He'd spend his whole life trying to make it up to her, including that $5,000 check that he can't afford to give her.
Right. And it explains why he did things like that specifically.
Right. And it has nothing to do with, Lola's more of a daughter figure to him than Maggie is.
Right, right. It's just,
although I think Lola thinks that.
Right. It's just guilt, and it's a very tragic, sad story.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't think he could ever actually reveal this information because
No,
it would ruin his reputation.
Yeah, and all of his relationships.
Yeah, like he can't ever come forward with this. And I don't see how he could ever come out without just completely destroying his character. And the title of the episode is Sins of the Father. So we kind of see where Walter's sins might be, and this is Sully's sin. And that all season long we haven't really understood the titles of episodes.
Yeah, right.
But this one is pretty clear.
Yeah, once you've seen it,
right?
It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
And, I had suggested, maybe he hit Lola drunk driving, and that's the reason Phoebe left.
Right.
But it was the reverse of that, which is what I was saying, like, the order of events is what got me. Like, I hadn't even considered that he hit her after Phoebe left.
Right. And in the present day, Sully ends up collapsing. And that is where our season ends.
Well, and we see Maggie.
Oh, yeah.
She had stopped her car right underneath the Sullivan's Crossing sign. She's crying, breaking down. Probably, not sure if this is the right thing to do. And she then makes that final decision that she just drives and leaves Sullivan's Crossing to head back to Boston again, another 10-hour drive. And like I said, Cal was driving towards Sullivan's Crossing. So I really hope that they just meet up in Timberlake before she gets on the highway and see each other and pull over and fix this right away that same night.
Well, at the same time, once again, if Cal is really determined to do this, he has a cell phone. He could easily call her.
Yeah.
And straighten that situation out.
I mean, obviously, eventually they're going to talk and have some progression forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they are all still the main characters of season 2. It's not like we're losing Cal or anything
No. I read a TV Line article that talked about Maggie and Sully's relationship from Scott Patterson. Scott Patterson was the one who was being interviewed. And I wish I had just written that in my notes, but I forgot to do that. But he had some good things to say there. He also talked about performing that final scene where he's like, having this medical event and eventually collapses. He says that was probably one of the harder scenes to shoot because he's not playing off of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge as an actor. So I thought
and he did a great job.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
of course, this was the second time that I cried was during this whole reveal. It was like you just feel for like every one of these characters.
And it's funny because Scott Patterson as Sully is not in this episode very much, but what he is in, he absolutely kills.
Right, and I feel like all of his stories and all of that came really full circle this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where he is right now, between. He thought that he had Maggie back in good graces, and now she's leaving, said goodbye, Sully.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got his guilt just totally culminating for everything happening with Lola. That he's been holding that for 20 years.
Right.
15 years, rather. 20 years.
Yeah. What, so
because
it
happened when she was 7. And
so she's 27 now?
Well, we know that when Maggie came back, they were both 15.
Right.
So
they're... Yeah, okay.
And he's dealing with, the camp's about to be foreclosed on. Fighting alcoholism.
Yes.
Frank's not even here.
Right.
To, help him with that avenue.
And again, maybe that's why they decide to not have him be in the episode for that reason.
I mean, is Frank Sully's sponsor? I'm not sure if they ever said that specifically.
He kind of acts like it.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't have, not that he was talking to him about any of these issues anyways, but
and
he doesn't have him here to fall back on.
Also, Cal's not here. And
Cal's gone.
Yeah, he had developed a relationship with him that he could talk to him about those things.
He has 0 employees here, actually. Jackson's in the hospital.
Right, yeah.
It's just him and Lola.
Right. Oh, good God, is he in trouble?
He's in a rough spot.
Yeah.
Emotionally, physically, he's got some problems going on. Remember way back, it was in episode 2, I think, or maybe even episode 1, we found out he hasn't been taking his blood pressure medicine.
Right.
So that's bad.
That kind of makes sense now. Basically, the story, this whole season, has been slowly taking pieces off of Sully's board, taking away his support system. First Frank and Edna, and then Jackson goes away, and then Cal disappears, and now Maggie's going away, even though she's
been back and forth a few.
Right, she hasn't exactly been a strong support system for him. But yeah, it's basically slowly taking things away from Sully to put him into this spot that he's at the end of the season. So I mean, I think,
and hopefully he doesn't need an ambulance.
Yeah, hopefully not, because he's gonna be waiting a while. So, yeah, I think maybe that's perhaps the reason why Edna and Frank were not in this episode, to get Sully to this place that he's in right now, that he's ending the season in.
I still think we should have seen them.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even need to be in Sullivan's Crossing. We could have seen them briefly at wherever they are on vacation.
We could have seen, in fact, Maggie have a phone call with them.
Right, I'm actually surprised that we didn't see them in their on their vacation at all.
Just because we got to see literally everybody else. Right. Everybody. Mm-hmm. Got a spot in this episode except for them, which again, it just felt a little weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes total sense that, them not being there is helping set this scenario that we're in. And I don't think I'd realized it till we're sitting here talking about it. Every single person's at a low right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Cal's on an uptake, because he just did this thing. He's been trying to do.
He had some catharsis.
Yeah, he had a really sad moment, but it was also a really positive moment because he's been something he needed to do, and I think both physically and spiritually working on letting her go, which is good for him. That's what that was his next step. So I think he's arguably the only person in our entire story that's maybe heading in a positive direction. Right. And every other person is kind of at their lowest low right now.
We don't know where Frank and Edna are.
We don't know where Frank and Edna are. Hopefully they're having a great vacation.
I hope so.
They're reuniting with Frank's family, which was the goal of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully for them, they're doing well. But obviously we just talked about Sully's doing horrible. Yeah. The Shandons, they fell apart. They're all in misery. Good for Rafe, I guess. Things might be positive for him.
Yeah. He's getting what he wants.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to enjoy that roommate, but that situation, but,
And Jackson as well.
Yeah.
he's on the road to recovery, but, you know, their family's still kind of reeling in the tragedy that happened there. Caleb left.
At the same time, I think he's in a good place because, you know, they both admitted their feelings for each other. That would be Caleb and Jackson. And also, he's talked to his dad.
Right.
And, you know, resolved that situation.
So we're going to head upwards also with his story. But at the same time, we hit low, right? Within the last episode and this episode. Like just everybody's just had these horrible things.
Yeah.
Horrible things piled on them.
It's
we didn't leave this at a happy ending for really anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, yay, everybody's perfect right now.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And everybody is going to need some support.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when we come back, I'm fairly certain we're not going to have progressed at all in the timeline. I think we're going to pick up right here. I mean, we kind of have to because there's so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, we can't really progress too much because otherwise Sullivan's Crossing is gone.
Right. It only has like 2 or 3 weeks left before the foreclosure date. Right. So we have to deal with that.
Or, you know, we could just come back and, Sully fixed it. But that'd be terrible.
That would be terrible. I mean, we could come back and find out that it was sold from under him. And the whole season's trying to get it back, I guess.
I mean, that makes some sense, but I don't know that I want to watch that show.
No, I don't think I want to watch that show either. And I think it's possible we start right here, spend an episode or two tying up this summer, and then we move forward. Mm-hmm. I think that's possible. Maybe even as far as like, oh, look, Maggie's 8 months pregnant now.
Right.
Or is it going to be she's pregnant for, you know, the entire run of the series? Like, we could do that too, where time never really progresses.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could be going as far as, from is in their timeline.
Yeah.
Just moving like a week forward.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
After 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Walking Dead, where Maggie was pregnant literally 90% of the series.
Really?
Yeah.
The character was named Maggie?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
She was pregnant, and she got pregnant, I forget when exactly, let's say season 3, and then by like season 8, she wasn't even showing yet still.
Was Wu Phillips Diamond the father?
No.
Sorry, that's a Quantum Leap reference.
And you mixed his name up a little bit.
Did I? Lou Phillips?
Lou Diamond Phillips.
Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay. Most people by now have stopped watching, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. So things are kind of abysmal, and hopefully season 2 is going to give us an upswing.
Yeah,
because we need some happy good stuff next. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm really glad that we didn't watch this when it originally aired in Canada, because it would have already been like a year.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm really happy that we're going to get new episodes sooner than later.
Yes, absolutely.
This is like the one time, you know, where that's going to happen, where we get to see something and then only a few months later a new season's going to come out.
Right. All right. So, do we have anything else to say about this episode?
I think we covered it. I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens next. It's so exciting that they have season 2 filmed. Yep. Post-production is going to happen, and then we're going to get to see the episodes. We've got some exciting stuff lined up to continue talking about this story in the near future. And hopefully the next time we do come and have a conversation about this story, we're going to have a premiere date to announce.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so if anybody, if for any reason you are listening to us and you haven't seen this show, I think we have a couple people that might apply to. Go watch it. This is a fun show. Yeah. Like, it's a feel-good, comfortable drama. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got highs and lows. It's got really, really believable characters, I think.
And, you know, I've said this a number of times that the writing is really subtle at points. It doesn't hold your hand. Yeah. So I actually appreciate that aspect of the series.
Yeah. I appreciate this show, and I'm really glad that we've been covering it.
Yeah. I'm glad Reed Price ended up putting us on it. Yeah. Though technically you put us onto it.
He introduced the show to us.
Right. Yep.
And I'm glad we went with it, because I really do enjoy it. And
I remember.
I think it's a great story.
I remember we were talking about doing this series, and the day we were going to do episode 1, I'm like, I think this is going to get like 10 views and nobody's going to care. And I turned out to be very wrong about that.
Right.
Yes. And I'm very happy to have been wrong. And so, you know, for those who've been listening, thanks for following us. And
stay tuned, because we're not going to stop talking about this show. And of course, we're still talking about all the other shows we talked
Right.
about as well. Next thing up on our plate is a brand new show airing on NBC. It's a sitcom called Extended Family.
We're not even sure how far along we're going to go with that, whether we're going to do every episode or so on
But
and so
that,
forth.
we do have one episode available now, which is a spoiler-free review of the pilot, and it is airing this Saturday, which is
December 23rd.
And immediately after that airs on NBC at 8 o'clock p.m. is when that airs. We're going to have a full analysis up, talking scene by scene. So if you need some comedy in your life, make sure you check that out and then come back and listen to our review of that.
Yeah, which after watching this show, you probably do need a
right
little bit of
after
comedy
this. We need a little comedy. So that's what's next on the plate for us. And Quantum Leap is also going to be coming back within the next couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And From is filming.
Yep. And,
down the street from Sullivan's Crossing.
And of course, we still got plenty of other things.
Plenty of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be no shortage of content on this channel.
Yes. All right. So we would like to hear from you. And if you, by the way, if you comment, we will shout you out, as you saw with the two people that we did shout out this week. Stacie can be reached at.
Can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.